Eskom, again, cannot supply you with constant electricity. The power utility placed the country on stage 4 rolling blackouts this morning. It's blaming more generation unit failures. Stage 4 will continue into tomorrow, after which stage 2 will come into effect for the weekend.
According to the power utility, a unit each at Kendal, Duva, Camden and Kusile power stations tripped. It says this necessitated the high usage of emergency generation reserves, and these are currently being depleted faster than can be replenished. Wednesday marked the 4th day of extremely high diesel usage, and Eskom says this high use of diesel in the open cycle gas turbines is costly and unsustainable.
The latest figure we received from the General Manager of Peking, RV Singh, is 4,700 Rand per megawatt. So that's where we are. And it's close to about 700,000 Rand per unit per hour. So it's a little bit more than the 500 that it used to be. But I'd like to give some other good statistics as well. Now, if you take one of these open cycle gas turbines, at full capacity, it is consuming 14 liters of diesel a second. So by using that, you can calculate what 14 of these, 9 at Ankerlig and 5 at Gerikwa, if all of them are running, what is it costing per hour, Eskom, in terms of just burning diesel. And we all agree it's not sustainable, and we need to get out of the situation. But this is where we find ourselves. For us, burning the diesel and have a financial blood nose is much better than, putting the country into a higher stage of load shedding.
The power utility says the high spending on diesel and the increase in prices is putting its finances under pressure.
And based on the historic average price, we would expect that to be around a 3 billion budget in the NERSA decision. Obviously, this excludes where the prices are currently, based on the Ukraine and Russian war. But Peter, we're working on a similar rand amount spend to what we will incur this year, around 6 billion rand. And at the end of the day, you are correct, it gets to a point that we only have so much liquidity to meet all our other operation as well as debt service commitments. So there will have to be trade-offs.
Eskom says the stage 4 rolling blackouts will allow the utility the space to replenish the emergency reserves and to protect the system's integrity. Claudia Sefakomosi, SABC News, Johannesburg.
And let's talk about this further with Professor Sampson Mamphweli from the Center for Renewable and Sustainable Energy Studies at Stellenbosch University. Prof, good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. Eskom says, of course, it is running extremely high on diesel, saying that it now needs, to support its emergency reserves, which are being depleted faster than can be replenished, especially now that we are also, finding ourselves in this position where it says it has to implement rolling blackouts. But how far can this go to assist in this regard?
Good evening to you and the viewers. So the emergency reserves that Eskom keeps are meant specifically for emergency purposes. And what happens is that Eskom then budgets for that in their tariff increase hikes requests to NERSA. And what we're seeing now, we're seeing an unprecedented kind of a situation where they have to use a lot more money buying diesel and then running those emergency reserves very much earlier on in the year, which then tells us that they may go over that particular budget that they requested from NERSA. And that boils down to who pays, which is basically the consumer. So that cost will have to be passed over to the consumers at the end of the day. So it's I understand when they say it's much better for them to go for stage 4 load shedding as opposed to continuing burning the diesel at this point in time.
At the same time, though, Prof, we are hearing about challenges at Medupi and Kusile Power Station, but we still don't really get a sense of what exactly are the challenges around these two power stations. They're fairly new. Does it look like we are ever going to get them to work at full capacity, or even Eskom understands exactly what's going on there?
The challenge there is that not even Eskom at this particular point understands what's happening at Medupi and Kusile. Initially, we knew that there were design challenges. Basically, at the beginning of the construction, they had some challenges in terms of the designs, especially at Medupi Power Station. What happened now is something that we never expected. Like you said, these power stations are quite new. We don't expect things such as your boiler should fail us at this particular point in time. I've had Eskom to reporting about something like that at Kusile. We don't expect a lot of trippings because these power stations are still new. So that for me is very much concerning. And looking at the fact that we have on the other hand a number of old power stations that were not properly maintained in the past that are giving Eskom quite a lot of problems when it comes to maintenance. So when they do planned maintenance, there's outage that is because of unplanned kind of outages or maintenance that needs to happen as well. So we expected that the new power plants will be performing much better. Those two power plants have never performed good in a better kind of a position since they came online. So that for me is very much worrying, and it talks to the designs and the equipment that they have on site. I think they need to have a very serious conversation with some of the equipment suppliers there.
Definitely, and especially when you talk about the issue of maintenance, Eskom even this morning talking about how much of a challenge this is going to be and how difficult 2022 is going to be for it. But I'd like us to touch on something that is also, bubbling under when it comes to this issue of Eskom. The National Freedom Party says these developments around Eskom are indicative of an energy crisis, and it expected that by now, Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan should have given the country some kind of direction, because this is having a direct impact on the economy, an economy that's already now finding itself under pressure from the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, and also even the price of petrol that we've seen, COVID-19, etc. Is this an unfair expectation?
I think at this point in time, we just need to look at the plans that government has in place. And some of these plans are led by the same Public Enterprises Minister. Some of them are led by the Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources, Mr. Gwede. And some of them were pushed basically by the president himself, because the energy situation in the country, like he always say, it's one of the challenges that is giving him sleepless nights. So if you look at the various plans that government has put in place, one can easily say that those plans will work. Some of the plans were not appropriate, I must say. For instance, when we did the emergency procurement, the Department of Energy went ahead and procured power from the car power ships with so many uncertainties against what some of us have been advising, to say we shouldn't be going that route. We should go the route that is already acceptable in the sector, a route that we know will work. So now we're sitting in a situation where out of the 2,000 megawatts emergency procurement, we are expecting about 800 megawatts that will come online maybe before June or so, as per the President's State of the Nation address. So those are some of the challenges, because the biggest issue that we have at Eskom is the issue of generation capacity and the aging fleet that was not properly maintained in the past. So all the plans are pointing towards the right direction, except that one where government made that slight mistake.
All right, Prof, it looks like it's still a bit of a long way to go here when it comes to addressing some of these challenges, but we'll have to leave it there for now. Thank you so much for your time. That was Professor Sampson Mamphweli from the Center for Renewable and Sustainable Energy Studies at the University of Stellenbosch.